Silent Hill, a revolutionary horror game that was released on the PlayStation 1 on February 23rd, 1999. After the success of the first game, many more would be produced and made globally. This and Resident Evil would be the big hits of the survival horror genre in the late 90s and early 2000s, so it makes sense that eventually the franchise would want to be on the big screen. At this point, many video games would have their turn at having their own movies. What could have gone wrong? Although it has decent reviews from critics, something didn't really add up when it was adapted to the big screen for fans. Hello and welcome to Screen Films, where we usually analyze movies and genres and discuss them. Today, I want to talk about the missed opportunity of the Silent Hill movie from 2006. Now, this video is from the perspective of a fan from the games and not from the movies, so my critiques are more based on what should have been in the movie that was in the game but isn't, as well as still complaining about some things that happened in the movie. Although this might look like it's going to be more of a hate video than anything, I just wanted to talk about what the movie should have done, as well as complain about some things as a fan who wanted the movie to be like the game. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna go ahead and just jump straight to the bone here. The movie doesn't really hold up to the original plot of the first game, since everyone knows the movie is based on the first game, so you would expect a lot of the stuff to come from the first game, which it kinda does, but it also takes its own ideas and creates them and wiping out things that are in the game that are in the movie. It could also be that the story of the first game is too deep for the film to understand, so they just kind of wrote it over and just didn't mind about it. Or they just don't know how the endings really worked with the video game, so they just kind of wrote their own. One of the first things that actually kind of threw me off is the changing of the state where Silent Hill takes place in. So in the video game, at least from Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3, Silent Hill takes place in Maine. It is a random city in Maine. For some reason in the movie, they decided to switch it to West Virginia, which I guess it makes sense. At least it's not like all the way in like California or something, even though I bet California is more of a Silent Hill than anything else, you know, with all the random stuff that happens on the streets. But it doesn't really make that much sense for it to happen. The filmmakers actually got the idea of replacing it into West Virginia from Centralia, Pennsylvania, which still doesn't make sense because that's still a different city in a different state, but to each his own, whatever, I don't care. I actually do kind of care. But it's also weird to me that they changed it from Maine, then they moved it to West Virginia, which was based on a city in Pennsylvania, even though they filmed it in Toronto, Canada. So films and stuff it's a little bit too weird at sometimes. Although the whole changing of the state is weird to me, it's not the worst thing, at least from what the movie does, but it's definitely a very weird coincidence and a very weird thing to kind of just process while you're watching the movie. But talking about stuff that shouldn't have been changed, characters. They actually wrote a lot of new characters to replace some of the good ones from the game. For what reasons, I don't know. The movie would have been way better if they made it simple and had just based it off of the video game characters. For some reason in the movie, they replaced Harry with Rose, which from what I've heard, the director purposely changed that because he thought that Harry in the game was girly. He didn't think that Henry was a masculine character or something, which realistically I would kind of bash that on him and saying that he probably sucks at playing the game. So screw you, director. But definitely when you are a fan and you know that the movie is about the first game and they changed the main character, that's definitely very weird, and it threw me off. If you Google the Silent Hill movie in the cast section, they actually say that Sean Bean is Harry, which if you're going to be looking up casts and information about movies, do not go to Google. Please use IMDb or something like that because it is more accurate information, and if you stick to Google, you will get wrong information and I will laugh at you about it. But definitely before I did watch the movie, I did get looped into the whole Google thing, so you're not alone. Realistically, with Silent Hill as a base, it's okay to have a female lead role. You know, Silent Hill 3 has Heather as the main character, which is totally fine. It makes sense. But replacing the main important character that you play as from Silent Hill 1 and gender swapping them is weird. Realistically, it's okay. Like, as a film itself is okay. But the fact that Silent Hill fans are expecting more of a one-to-one version of the game into the movie, it definitely is very throwing off. They do this all the time in this movie. They replace character names and everything. For instance, Cheryl is replaced replaced by Shannon, who I think is the worst part of this movie. Definitely them trying to change the names and stick to the original plot of Silent Hill 1 is weird. I mean, they got the licensing for the movie. Why couldn't they just use the actual names of the characters? The cult's name was changed from the Order to the Brethren, again, for some reason. And then they bring in this new character, Christabella, who they were like, you know what? She's gonna be the main villain, not Dahlia. So, for those that don't know, kind of spoilers to Silent Hill 1, even though it's a decently old game. Dahlia is the main antagonist of the game, basically. So Dahlia kind of persuades you to do her bidding in the game, and then it turns out that she's the villain. She's in the movie, but she's just a crazy old lady, which, yes, makes sense for her character, kind of in Silent Hill 1 as well, but as a side character that doesn't really do anything is really stupid. I definitely think the whole cult idea in this movie is lame, mostly because they have more of a following in the movie than in the game. In the game, there's like literally no one because everyone's dead in Silent Hill, and it helps stick with main characters and get them used to them while playing the game. So in the game, you only focus on overall 7 main characters that you kind of interact and talk through all the way, minus Harry in that situation. Obviously, being Harry, you have Sybil, Cheryl, Elisa, Dahlia, Dr. Kaufman, and Lisa. Those are the only characters that you really get to know in this game, and it helps isolate the characters instead of randomly, oh, there's this cult that hides in the church, and they're just gonna stay there and do nothing, and just go, Witch! Yeah, they do that way too many times in this movie, and it's really annoying. But changing all of this makes no sense unless they were trying to do something different, which if they were trying to do something different, why are they using a lot of the information from Silent Hill 1 if they wanted to make their own movie based on Silent Hill and not have any of the same plot as they did with the first game? They could have done that. Silent Hill 2 had its own thing, and everyone enjoyed that, so I don't know why they couldn't just think off of that or just stick to the original information that they had about the first game. But again, this movie just adds random new characters that shouldn't be involved, and they also make a lot of the existing characters from the game more annoying as characters in the movie. But for now, I am done complaining about characters. Let's move on. A lot of this movie also just takes a lot from the Silent Hill games with the soundtrack, but they really enjoy using Silent Hill 2 music. It makes a lot of sense since Akira Yamaoka was involved with the music production of this movie, but I don't know who it was who was just like, no, you need to use Promise from Silent Hill 2 almost at any time you can. Promise literally played out like 4 to 6 different times in this movie at the most random times. Like, I think it happens twice whenever we're looking at Rose's car and she's like looking at stuff. I think when she first gets into Silent Hill, and then when she's looking back into her car, it plays it again. I understand it's a good song, but holy smokes, it's more impactful if you play it maybe twice. We know you like this song that we're not basing this movie off of, but we're gonna throw it in for you as fan service. I understand if they really wanted to make this movie a fan service movie, but they're doing it wrong. Overall, with the music, it is really good in this film, but again, it just comes down to they're not really using music from the first game or even original music. It's mostly based off Silent Hills 2 and 3, which for fan service is always good, but the fan service in this game is a little bit too much. So let's get into some of those. One of the big things that I actually didn't really understand in this movie that they did is adding a lot of the monsters from Silent Hill 2. Now, no, there are for sure at least 1 to 2 monsters from Silent Hill 1 that are in the movie. The one that I can instantly think of is the children from the very beginning, whenever Rose gets into Silent Hill and she goes to the other world for the first time and you see the children. But then after that, they're gone and you're forced to look at Silent Hill 2 monsters, which always isn't a bad thing, but we're talking about a Silent Hill 1 movie, but not a Silent Hill 2 movie. Now, note, they are called Dark Children, technically, from an encyclopedia that I found, but they look like children in a cosmic sort of way. But it doesn't end from there. Next, we have what are called the Creepers, which are basically big bugs. I believe they were in the first game. They're for sure in the second game, but I am pretty sure they're in the first game, so this one kind of slides under the rug a little bit. Next 3 don't. So, we're going to start with the Armless Man. The Armless Man is this thingy. Again, that's a Silent Hill 2 monster that has a specific meaning behind it, and the meaning is not important in the movie because they didn't care. Next, we have the Dark Nurses, which actually do look pretty good in this, mostly for their look. but if you know the meanings behind the Dark Nurses and the Armless Man, you should know that they're not anything close to the story of Silent Hill 1, which brings me to my next point. Pyramid Head. Yes, these movies are infamous for having Pyramid Head in them, and they shouldn't. I know most of them were in here for fan service, obviously. That's why Pyramid Head is in all over media now, mostly in Konami games, because of the fan service and how popular he is. But he just doesn't make sense in this. So for those that don't understand what I'm trying to bring up in this is Pyramid Head, the Armless Man, and the Nurses are all James Sunderland's vision of himself. They're his own creations that Silent Hill popped out for him to confront. Well, mostly the Dark Nurses and the mannequins in Silent Hill 2 are based off James's sexual frustrations because, you know, if you know the lore, Mary got sick and, you know, James wasn't sick and there's a whole thing between them. So it just kind of rubs in the wrong way that they're in the movie. Not as much because, you know, Pyramid Head's the big situation. Pyramid Head's ordeal in Silent Hill 2 is that he is James's judgment. That's why, you know, Pyramid Head keeps killing Maria in Silent Hill 2 is because, you know, James kills Mary in Silent Hill 2. Maybe a bit of a spoiler, but I mean, game came out early 2000s, so it's fine. But overall, all the Silent Hill 2 creations don't make sense for them being in this movie. I think overall, Pyramid Head just hits me the wrong way, especially how they build him up for his first reveal. It is the most lamest way of showing him. They build up the tension of like what's happening, and then Pyramid Head just walks out like this. Like, he just lamely just shows up and just dragging his knife. And, like, the second time we see him, it's way cooler. Because, you know, you hear the blade going. You know it's him. The bugs are showing up because that's his thing. And then, you know, in that door that Sybil and Rose are in, he cuts it. He tries killing them. And it, like, actually brings tension to the situation. It makes Pyramid Head look scarier. He doesn't look scary when he first shows up. Imagine this. You're watching Infinity War, and you see Wanda fighting off Thanos' goons. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you just see Captain America just blatantly walk in. Like, not from the shadows or anything, you know, building up the tension. He just walks in and is like, oh, hey, I'm Steve Rogers, I'm gonna fight you, I have a new beard and everything, you know? That would be lame. And that's really how Pyramid Head's kind of treated in this. He's barely shown anyways. And then in the second movie, he's a protector, which is not his character at all. But it's just the fact that the whole point of this movie just feels like fan service is the worst part of it because they're trying too hard to make the fan service make sense when it doesn't make sense at all. So now that I got that out of my system, time to get more stuff out of my system. So now that I've talked about the stuff that was from the games and everything that didn't make sense to be in the movie, I'm gonna do a quick thing about the movie and what I think sucked in it. So to start out with, I mean, obviously the plot's kind of bland. Sean Bean's character isn't needed in this movie at all. Realistically, if they were trying to stick to the Silent Hill 1 plot, he wouldn't have been needed. Now, understandably, it makes sense that they're trying to do two perspectives. I say two very harshly because it's barely shown, but them trying to also have the idea of, hey, they're somehow in Silent Hill, but not in Silent Hill. We don't know what happened is okay, but the fact that we keep getting driven away from the stuff that's happening within the city with Rose and stuff, to see Sean Bean just walking around the town like nothing's happening and getting plot thrown at him is stupid, mostly because it's not needed. Like, his character isn't needed. Now, if he was supposed to be Harry originally, it would have been fine because it would make more sense. But no, he's just this random dude that they were like, huh, you know, we have Harry and his wife from the first game. I don't like Harry as a main character, so we're gonna change him out, and then we're actually gonna have his lover involved too, so screw you. So literally half of the movie isn't needed for the movie. It made more sense in Silent Hill 1 that Harry got all the information thrown at him while he was in the town, but not someone else randomly getting the lore too. You know, it's more immersive when you have one character learning about the lore than two characters learning about different parts of the lore and trying to connect it for the movie. Doesn't make sense. I definitely think this movie is a little bit too long. I definitely think with the additions with Chris's plot point of the movie, it definitely just takes way too long. I think the movie's like 2 hours long. This movie did not need to be 2 hours long. It could have been like an hour 30 to like hour 40 tops, but they definitely were trying to throw plot at everyone who probably didn't know what Silent Hill was about. There's not that many buildups in this movie either. They just they try to build up tension and then it all falls flat. Like maybe once or twice it was good, but in general it just sucked. Like buildups just weren't coherent or existent in this movie, really. The transitions to the other world really suck in this movie. If you have seen or played Silent Hill, any of the games, you would know that the other world kind of just happens right there and then, and like you see it kind of happen unless like a small flicker something happens. I'm definitely thinking they had a whole situation like, we need to transition from the real world to the other world. How do we do that? And then they had the whole genius of green screen. So basically the other world is one whole green screen room in a way, from what it looked like to me. So them trying to transition from one to the other, wouldn't be too hard these days if you get the right people. No, they literally just transition to black for like 5-10 seconds. You hear some sounds going on to make sure, hey, this isn't a weird thing happening, this is supposed to happen, and then you transition into the other world. Like the first one that happens was Rose is walking down the stairs and then she's getting her letter all sorted out. Her light goes out, and as she flicks it on again for the next time, she's in the other world. But then they keep doing transitions like that. Like near the end, when Pyramid Head is trying to get them while they're at the church, they literally are like broad daylight, and then it's like you hear the siren and then everything just turns black and then it comes back as the other world. Like it's super lame. If they made it more scarier, I think it would have been fine, but the fact that you hear the sirens, cuts the black, barely anything happens like with audio to help build the tension up, and then it shows up, that would have been cooler, but they don't do that and it's just lame and unnecessary. And then the last thing that I have, the CGI sucks. It does not hold up at all. The Dark Children look terrible in the other world. The bugs look mediocre at best. The armless men look very CG, like trying to be fleshy like, and like being able to see on their insides, but it just doesn't look good at all. Like you can tell that they are very digital. And the situation is that this movie came out in 2006, which means they had from like 2005 to 2004 to film it and have post-production. In that time era, we had mediocre to decent CGI. I don't know if they were just rushing the CGI team to get all their stuff done or what, but it just looks bad. It definitely takes you out of the movie and it's just really annoying. So those were realistically all of the bad things I didn't like about the movie, from a little bit of a film perspective and from mostly a gamer's perspective. So to kind of end this video kind of a little bit softer, I'm going to talk about some of the things that were actually okay about the movie that they kind of hit pretty well. So realistically, the movie does an okay job at portraying the plot of the first film, and okay is a nicer way to say it. Like it follows somewhat of the same stuff. It starts with a car crash, the character doesn't know what's going on, middle point stuff, and at the end, the cult people die and everything and whatnot. Like it resembles the main base of the story okay, but it's just kind of the smaller details between everything that fall flat. The ending is a mediocre twist. They really make sure you understand what's happening with the color grading of the film, with Chris being in like the sun and it's nice outside, and then Silent Hill is just foggy and gloomy, and it's an okay twist, but I don't know if it was supposed to get it ready for the sequel or not. I haven't watched the sequel yet, but I don't know if it was just purposely trying to go for, hey, possible sequel or what, but I think for Silent Hill, it's just a little bit off. For those who haven't heard of Silent Hill or have like roughly understand the games, it's an okay experience, genuinely. It's just the fact that the general audience who are trying to see this movie is Silent Hill lovers of the games. But definitely if you brought someone who has never heard of any of the stuff from Silent Hill and you brought them to the movie, I think it would have been an okay situation. It would just come down to early 2000s horror sucks in general, so all the same implications of the other 2000 horror movies are still implicated in this. It definitely has a few of the main characters that are from the games, which is really good. Those being Sybil, Alessa, Dahlia, and then Lisa is in this as well for a small cameo near the end. But it does good with having actual characters from the games and bringing them to live action, but it's just the fact that they really just ruin a lot of it is the big situation. But again, some of these characters being, as their characters is pretty cool. And then realistically, last thing, if the Silent Hill name wasn't slapped onto this movie, it would have been an okay horror movie for 2006, genuinely. I think the problem really is with this movie is Silent Hill had already 4 or so games out at this point, and with it being an early 2000s thing, that's when a lot of the video game adaptations were happening, was early 90s to like 2000s even till now, and they probably wanted to make a quick buck off of it. I say that, probably not, but generally, if it didn't have the name Silent Hill as the title, that had something else, it would have been alright as its own thing. The problem is it has Silent Hill onto it as the name, and just doesn't really hold out as much. But I mean, there are good news about the Silent Hill movie series that are coming out. Return to Silent Hill, which I believe is coming out now in 25 instead of what it was supposed to be, which was this year. From what it looks like, they are staying true to Silent Hill 2, which perfectly makes sense because we just got the Silent Hill 2 remake this year, and it's kind of blowing up Silent Hill again for being a main franchise in horror. Although, I said that about Welcome to Raccoon City a little bit to myself, and Welcome to Raccoon City didn't do that well anyways, so I'm not gonna be positive about it just yet. I'll probably have to see it before really making an opinion, but definitely if you are maybe interested in it, maybe if it comes out you would watch it. I definitely think Silent Hill is way better as a video game series than movies. A lot of the things work in movies, but trying to create something like that doesn't make sense for a movie. And the people who made this movie, they're not part of any big production. Now these days you would have Blumhouse taking over for like some video game stuff. This series just didn't have it for the movies. So trying to adapt kind of that same stuff and being like, no, we're purposely changing this for this reason, doesn't really work. And that's really why I think Silent Hill had the possibilities of being a good movie, but just failed. And that's why I think the 2006 Silent Hill movie was a missed opportunity. So thank you for watching. As of today, it is November 29th, and November 30th is the last day of November. I'm going to be trying to get this out as fast as I can. Hopefully I can get it out by Saturday. If you're seeing this on Saturday, I rushed this hopefully and did a good job on it. Definitely I want to deep dive into the movie overall more in a possible video, but after definitely just watching it for the first time, after being like, hey, I need to watch this movie, and kind of just being disappointed by it, it just kind of threw me off, and I focused on a video like this. So if you did enjoy this, please like it, please share it with some people who might be interested in Silent Hill or played Silent Hill 2 and wanted to watch the movie, you know, kind of warn them about the whole situation that happened with the movies. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye.